31st, March 31st, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. I'm David Brown, the Animal Services Coordinator for the county. I'd like to call the meeting to order now. So we can go ahead and get started. First off, everyone knows me, but we do have, unfortunately, Matt isn't able to be here today. So, but we do have Jill Barriswain, who is the Deputy Chief Director of Emergency Management, and we have Alton Adams on, the COO. And we also have a new county attorney for us, Jonathan Logal, went somewhere else. So we got Stephen Rosenberg. So I'll let Joe, I guess, introduce himself, and then Stephen, you can introduce yourself and read the bylaws, and then we'll go from there.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Barriswain. I'm the Deputy Director for Emergency Management, and I came over to Emergency Management in March of 2020. Been working with animal control for about the last 13, 14 months, and helping Matt out with these. And this is actually my first meeting with everybody, so thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Rosenberg. I am a Deputy County Attorney in the County Attorney's Office. I am filling in for Jonathan, who is long gone, sadly, and certainly will be filling in for the near future. I can read I saw on the agenda that there was a reading of the bylaws. If you all want me to read through the bylaws, I certainly can do that. I can use the reading skill practice, but or y'all could waive that. It's up to you.
I think we were originally.
Anna, I would like.
Go ahead, Anna.
Thank you. Stephen, this is Anna. I would like to make the motion that we skip the reading of them, since we all have a copy and pretty familiar. There had been some discussion amongst the board that we would like to make it so that we can have virtual meetings even when there isn't COVID restrictions. So since you're the attorney and I'm the chairman, how do we go about doing that?
Well, so yeah, I think a couple things. One, there needs to be a motion, a second, and it needs to be approved that we skip the or forego the reading of the bylaws. And then at a subsequent point, we can have another motion to sort of amend the bylaws. I don't know that we can forego or do without the requirement of the Open Meetings Act that it be an in-person meeting. I think we're currently under a state of emergency, and that is sufficient for having these types of teleconferenced or virtual meetings. It isn't something that I've spent a lot of time looking at, but I think the current state of affairs is it's okay to have these virtual meetings. But going forward, if there is not a state of emergency declared, I don't believe we can have at least under the current state of the law, virtual or teleconferenced meetings.
Okay, what I'd like to do then is see about having a board member make a motion. We'll get a second on skipping the reading. Why don't we do that first, and then I'll move on to the second part. So do we have someone that would identify themselves and make a motion, and someone identify themselves and give us a second?
This is Kathy Crawford. I move that we skip the reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is Calissa Wade.
Do we have
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And
all right.
Chairwoman Ware, if I can, and I'll defer to Stephen on this. I think that from a formality standpoint, you're the one that actually calls the meeting to order. And then secondly, I don't know if it's appropriate to take roll so that we have on the record who the attendees are.
Thank you for guiding me. Was that Alton?
It is. It is.
I thought so. Thank goodness I have you, Alton, to keep me straight. Yes, sir. I think it would be an excellent idea to call the roll. So as I stated, this is Anna Ware. I'm here. Unfortunately, Linda, our vice chairman, Linda Johnson, was not able to join us this evening, but I'll have the other members identify themselves if they would, please.
Kathy Crawford,
Calissa Wade.
Jessica Hamby,
Al McDaniel,
I guess that's everybody then. Okay, so Alton, may we, thank you for guiding me. May we vote now on foregoing the reading of the bylaws?
I had the benefit of sitting in the BOC meetings every other week, so I kind of have a little bit of a feel for how the processes work here. Again, I'll be guided by Stephen because he is our attorney. But I do think now that you've called the meeting to order and done the roll call, we can proceed with business as you would like.
Wonderful. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. I would like to vote that we skip the reading, and if the other members could please log their vote.
I'd vote to bypass it.
I vote we skip the reading of the bylaws.
this is Al McDaniel, and I vote that we skip the reading of the bylaws.
This is Calissa, and I vote that we skip the reading of the bylaws.
Okay, so that looks like that's passed. Now, this is Anna Ware again. Stephen, since this is a new subject that we've brought up to you just relatively recently, and I think then probably the best way to move forward would be for you to look into it. Is that what you're saying, is to look into whether or not we're legally allowed to have virtual meetings?
I think that's fair. Yeah. To the extent it's not really on the agenda as such, you could hold it until a subsequent meeting to have that decision, that sort of process, or have that vote, and then I can advise, I guess, or send the board some information on that in the meantime. I will tell you, my first blush in looking at it is that, absent some change, and I understand there may well be a change proposed in the legislature right now, but absent some change to the Open Meetings Act, we may not be able to have these virtually so long as there is no emergency. Currently, as I said, we are in a state of emergency, and I think this is acceptable. Going forward, it's going to be sort of meeting by meeting whether we are in an emergency or not. That's kind of where I am. I certainly could look at it more. I looked at it, in the half hour before this meeting. Generally, I like a little more time for that, but I'll leave it at that.
How about 4 weeks? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, wonderful. So if you could just give us some feedback within the next 4 weeks, then we can look at it and see how we'll move forward.
Sure. And just for what it's worth, it's interesting, right? As a citizen board edit, I'm thinking sort of out loud, which is tough, always a problem as the sausage gets made in my head. I was thinking I would provide it to either Joe or Alton or David or all three, and then they can send it to the board as appropriate. But I'll get something to somebody so they can get disseminated to the board.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so that has our call to order, welcome and opening remarks, introductions, and the bylaws covered. Now there's a portion of the agenda for current shelter update. Could someone identify themselves from Fulton County Animal Services and give us the lowdown on the shelter?
Sure, Anna. I want to take this opportunity to, I'm Rebecca Gwen. I'm the CEO of Lifeline Animal Project, and Lifeline is the vendor that operates the Fulton County Animal Shelter and also provides field enforcement services for the county, for Fulton County and all the jurisdictions contained within it. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce some folks that may or may not have been here before. As some of you may know, our director, Lifeline's director at Fulton County Animal Services, Laura Hudson, has taken a different position with Lifeline. And we have promoted from within, and I'm very proud to introduce Audrey Shoemaker as the new director of Fulton County Animal Services. And also our new field services director, Trey Law, is on the call. And I don't believe Trey has participated in one of these meetings either. So I'd love to give Audrey a chance to introduce herself and say a few words, and Trey as well, and then we can jump into the stats. So Audrey, what's up?
Audrey Shoemaker. I actually know quite a few of you. It's very nice to see some friendly faces. This is really exciting, and it's a big job. We have a lot of work to do, and that weight is definitely there. I take this job very seriously. It's also why I decided to take on the position. I am deeply committed to this organization and to Fulton County. I'm a Fulton County resident. I lived in Fulton County for almost 16 years in Southwest Atlanta. So I'm also in what you would consider a typically under-resourced community. And so I've seen what it's like to live in Fulton County and to have pets. I've always had pets. I joined Lifeline in 2013, and I've worked in several different positions in leadership roles since 2015, managing programs before that. My sort of background and my area of interest has largely been in placement and really working on coming up with strategic plans for how to move animals out of the shelter. In the last few years, I've learned so much, and I have grown quite a bit from actually doing this work and seeing where there's so much opportunity to reach the community differently. And so in the last few years, my focus really shifted to more community work. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Rebecca and I think we'll talk a little bit more about some of those programs and new structure that we've put in place and new programming shortly. But I am an open door. I'm interested in getting to know you guys a little bit better. My idea of working with you all is to, if I can answer a question, I'm going to give you guys my email. I'm not sure if the chat is working. If it is, I'll add my email there, but I'm going to slowly give it to you now in case you guys want to take it down. It's A Shoemaker, that's SHOEMAKER at FultonAnimalServices.com. But truly, if you have a question and there's something that I can help answer with you, that's what I'm here for. I'm hoping that we can get to know each other a little bit better and collaborate a lot more as we move forward. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Audrey. Trey, say hello.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Trey Law. I'm the new Director of Field Services here with Lifeline. I've been with Lifeline since June of last year. So unfortunately, because, COVID, we have not been able to meet, but hopefully we get to meet very soon. I have been in this profession for about 8 years now. I am currently a board member for the National Animal Care and Control Association, which provides guidelines and guidance to all the shelters around the country. I have experience in animal welfare enforcement, as well as in contract administration with animal welfare. So I've been a contract administrator for several different jurisdictions with animal control contracts. I am here as a resource for everyone that wants to reach out to me as well. I am an open door. My phone line is always available, as well as my email. You can reach me at my email, which is my first name, Trey, TRE, dot my last name, LAW, at FultonCountyGA.gov. And like I said, I'm always here for questions.
Thanks, Trey. And I also see on the call our Director of Operations at Fulton County Animal Services, Belinda Bell. So Belinda, do you want to say hello and anything else? Belinda's shy. If you change your mind, Belinda, just break in on me.
I
That's
think
fine.
she's actually still in the car because the woman never stops working. So I think
Right.
it's actually just where she's at. She just left the shelter, although she arrived at like 5:30 this morning. So.
Okay, all right. And I also see a former director, Laura Hudson, is actually listening in. So if we get into real trouble, Laura will just step in. So let's go, see if I can share my screen to go to the stats. It looks like that works. Share. How's it look? Got it? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay. And we'll just go through these fairly quickly. I think I'm going to try to. Just and the slides are filling the full screen. Is that correct? Yeah, it's somebody. No, okay, good. All right. So we're going to start off with our shelter intake. So I prepared this format in hopes that one day we'll meet more regularly. And so I want to review really the snapshot in time. So the most recent stats we have are for February. And then I've also put to the side there the 2021 total, so you can get an idea of what an overall year looks like, although nothing's been really usual with any of these statistics since 2019. And we've also got a comparison to the previous year. So, and then the column that you see, the 21, 22 change, there are certain things where we have some indicators, whether we think things are going the right way or we think things are we'd like to see different. And then we also, in some areas, we're tracking things very carefully and wanting to make a turnaround, and some numbers, some comparisons, they just are what they are. So, and in the case here, what's most alarming to us is the intake, total intake is up, but also really it's the dog intake that's up the most, so 10% over last year. And our OTC stands for over the counter. And so that's dogs over the counter. That is up quite a bit. And then our total intake is up somewhat. Cat intake is down. That is not that unusual. Fulton has a fairly low intake of cats generally, just because cats are not subjected, or they're not covered by a great many of the Fulton County ordinances. So this just gives you an idea. 464 total animals came in. I believe that David or someone can provide you with, or we can provide you with a copy of this, so that for those of you who are on the phone, I'm not going to read line by line all these stats, but this is just gives you a snapshot of intake. Also, if you have any questions, just speak up and interrupt us if you need to. Let's see. I am not changing. There we go. Outcomes, our shelter outcomes. So we've listed most of our outcomes. I think there may be one that's missing, which is an outcome that's called dead on arrival. But those animals are not included in the intake stats that I showed you. Good news is that our adoption for dogs is trending upward. The adoptions for cats, I'm not too concerned about that because the cat intake is down, but our total adoptions are up a little bit. Our return to RTH is return to home, or what we used to call return to owner, and we're seeing a bit of a change on that. We divide our intake, and you may have noticed that on the previous slide, between what we call lost intake. So that would typically be called stray animals or animals at large. And then, so lost dog intake is really the most critical piece for us. And that's where most of the animals that come into the shelter are lost dogs or stray dogs. So we also want to measure our return to home of animals that are lost. And that number is down a little bit over last year. We do transfers to rescue groups, and we've broken those out because we do transfers to groups outside of Lifeline. And then we have our own facility, our community animal center, where we transfer quite a few animals. If you look at the difference in numbers, we transferred almost 900 animals in 2021 to our community animal center. We actually opened that center in 2019 with the purpose of being able to assist some of the overflow in our 2 county shelters. We also operate the DeKalb County shelter. Cats, again, aren't subject to, how to put this, free roaming cats are not prohibited in Fulton. So if they do come into the shelter and they're healthy outdoor cats, they can be put into our trap, neuter, return program, where they're sterilized, vaccinated, and taken back to their homes. Euthanasia numbers, while they are up somewhat in February, 25 animals were euthanized compared to 18 in February of 21. We're still looking at a save rate of 93.7%. And in most, generally, shelters are considered no kill if they have above a 90% save rate. So what this means is that we have not had to euthanize a healthy or treatable animal at Fulton. Now, obviously, some animals are not treatable, and some animals are dangerous to the community, and those animals are euthanized. But otherwise, we've got a save rate that's good. It's a little bit down from February of last year. That's in part, I think, a function of the higher intake, but overall, we're trending a little bit better than 2021. One of the things we've done over the last couple of years is trying to really invest heavily in our foster program, where we believe that animals do much better in homes than they do in shelters. And so we are seeing quite a bit of growth in that area this year. We have overall, I'm not showing the overall number, but our goal is to try to have at least 50% of our animals at any given time in foster care. We came close to that in 2021. I think we're around 45%. And so right now it's 34% of our dogs and 30% of our cats are in foster. So we want to get those numbers up, but we are doing better this year than last year. So 95 animals altogether went into foster in February of 2022. And we've also got the number of animals that are in foster the last day of the month. In this case, 142 dogs and 6 cats. For our field services operations, and Trey, if you're gonna chime in on this, we track a lot of numbers in this. So I track a number of calls per jurisdiction and stuff. So I didn't try to narrow this down to what I thought would be most relevant for your purposes here. So our calls for service is up. First sequence calls is the number of calls for the first time. So our total number of calls that we're servicing in any given month is the first sequence calls plus the follow-up calls. But our first sequence calls were up 20%. And that is not necessarily a good sign, actually. So when we are starting to see more people calling for service. Warnings issued, that's where we've seen a violation, but we want to give someone a chance to come into compliance. And if that's the case, we'll issue a warning and then do a follow-up call. Our citations are down slightly, but not really significantly. Our field returns to home. All of our officers have microchip scanners, and if they have the time, they will walk around a little bit in the neighborhood to try and return an animal. We also, if we get a call about a specific animal, our administrative support team we'll look through past records for in that area to see if we've got anything on an animal matching that description in the past. We use all those different tools to try to return animals in the field. Our field impounded 226 animals. 5 of those were cruelty impounds. And again, that large number that we're really trying to do something about, stray or lost dog impounds of 171. Community support is a relatively new function, and we actually had a database built independent of the shelter management software to track this activity. And these are calls that sometimes they come in as calls for service. Sometimes it's folks over the counter. Sometimes it's just people calling for assistance. And we've set up a department to do some different things there. And Audrey, I don't know, since it is a new service, Audrey, would you like to talk a little bit about what community support is?
Sure. We created this department in 2020, and the idea really was to try to apply a case management approach to the way that we assist the community when they call for assistance, and also trying to become, hopefully over time, more proactive and create a more welcoming environment for people to receive support. So the numbers sort of speak for themselves. Right now, we have 4 community support coordinators, and they are working through all these individual cases. When a great deal of our calls right now, as you can imagine, being that we work with companion animals, obviously when people are struggling, it's been a challenging time, as we all know. That means the community needs different resources from us in order to keep their family members, their 4-legged family members at home. So we have 4 coordinators, and we have 1 community support manager, and they're all here in our front office. When we receive phone calls, we try to track each of these cases with an individualized case management approach. It's been a big area for growth for us, and it's been helpful to be able to track these needs in this way so that we can get a better handle on what the community really needs from us service-wise. We do have a supervisor that's going to be joining us next month, and 1 more community support coordinator that is also joining us in a couple weeks.
Audrey, I have a question for you, if I can. I noticed you have supplies here. You know, one of the things that a number of people, and you mentioned it, a number of people have struggled in certain communities with the price of feeding their pets. And I know the Humane Society has a program, maybe you do as well. I know they delivered, tons of food over the last couple of years. Really was wondering if we do the same thing, or if you're plugged into that, so that if you do get a request and we don't do it, you could forward it to them and have them do it.
We do. That's a service that we provide. We actually, the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about our Pets for Life program. But the fortunate structure that we've built that it's really working for us is that model is now being applied at the shelter through this community support programming. Where when someone calls and says that they are, sometimes it'll originate as a potential surrender. That's a lot of the reasons. And when we talk to the client, a lot of times you realize that they're just need some resources to be able to keep them. So we do provide that directly from the shelter. If they need a different approach, then that would be with Pets for Life. That's the door-to-door we're going to talk about next. That's the door-to-door outreach. So we do have both opportunities within Lifeline.
Thank you.
Audrey, I do have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
I've heard from numerous neighbors in the community through Pets for Life that they're not coming into low income and dangerous zip codes, and also are not coming out to certain areas due to COVID. I know numerous neighbors of mine can get literally no service. They're doing TNR on their own. They're saying Pets for Life literally refuses to come out to these zip codes because they're too dangerous, but I don't understand because that's in our county. So why are they not providing the service? Like my mom personally went back up to Atlanta, I believe last week, and donated cat food to a bunch of rescue organizations because apparently Lifeline and Pets for Life was not handing these things out to the community. And also, is there any kind of inventory?
Excuse me just a moment. Jessica, I can address that when we get to the Pets for Life slide. But I do want to just let the rest of the board members know that Pets for Life is actually an independent program. It is not funded by Fulton County. So we're going to report on it because it's a service that Lifeline does provide. And I may be able to address some of your concerns. But it is not a Fulton County Animal Services program. Now we do, when we get calls that are fielded by our community support team at the shelter, we do refer people who are in Pets for Life zip codes to the Pets for Life program. And hopefully I can address some of your questions when we get to that. Did you have but I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to kind of move to the Pets for Life when we get to those statistics, because I will report them. If you had something else concerning the services provided by Fulton County.
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'd like to interrupt. This is Anna Ware. I apologize, but I'm actually driving, and so I do not have a visual on who's speaking. So, and there may be others that don't have a visual. So if you don't mind, when someone new starts to speak, if you could identify yourself, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Our volunteer program, this is again through the shelter, the Fulton County shelter. 2021 was kind of a low year for volunteers. We are picking back up. Last month we had 75 active volunteers in the shelter for a total of 682 volunteer hours. We're starting to welcome volunteer groups back in. So those are like corporate groups, or a lot of times we'll have groups from Georgia Tech or one of the other colleges. So we are gearing back up to have more volunteers within the shelter. We haven't started doing off-site events yet, but we expect that we'll be doing that again soon. We're glad to see those number of volunteers more than quadrupling, and also the volunteer hours almost doubling so over last year. And then Jessica, you mentioned Pets for Life. So Pets for Life is an independent program. It's funded entirely through donations, and it is not. It does not receive any funding from Fulton County. It's not a part of the contract. I do want to address the TNR. Pets for Life is not a trap, neuter, return service. It's not a service that we provide generally. It is something that we will help individual clients with if they have outdoor cats that they are taking care of. We do have a cat field service coordinator that we added towards the end of last year to try to help with those Pets for Life services. And specifically with trap, neuter, return, but it is not a service that's provided by Pets for Life. Pets for Life is for primarily to assist people with their own pets, and then to assist people who may be wanting to help with community cats. We do provide as much assistance as we can. I'm not sure about the zip codes being too dangerous. The Pets for Life zip codes have been established, and we took over the program in 2017. They're, the zip codes that are predominantly, I think 30318 is the one furthest to the north. That's where the shelter is located. So it's the central part of Atlanta. What most people would refer to as West Atlanta. So part of it's Northwest Atlanta, and then the rest is considered Southwest Atlanta. And I don't have this precise zip codes. I can look those up somewhere, but and it's 30318, 30310, 30314. I think parts of 30316. It's the, but again, that central area of Atlanta, just west of downtown. We assisted, and again, as far as people not getting services, in 2021, we assisted 3,929 humans in those zip codes, and 5,575 pets. Provided 774 free spay neuter surgeries, and then over total supplies, medications and services, over 8,000, and total supplies over 7,000. That does include food. Where our center is actually open. It's on Hollywood Road off of Donald Lee Hollowell, and it is open for people to come by and get food, and we also deliver food. Just to give you an idea of February's activities, since I know some of you are on the phone, we assisted 354 humans in the zip codes, 554 pets just in February. The numbers are down slightly. We are short one person, but we do have 5 individuals who work full-time providing Pets for Life services. We completed 55 spay neuter services, and then we also did 7 mobile vet visits where our vets are going actually into the community door to door to do minor things that don't require the physical clinic. And then 56 pets were assisted with veterinary care in addition to spay neuter. So these are pets that normally it's skin conditions, but we do sometimes have to do more serious things. And again, this is privately funded. So I don't, but for the TNR, now we typically Pets for Life, it's not field services, it's not animal control. So we're working with animals that are attached to humans, and we typically would refer a call that might be, say, for an abandoned property or something like that. We would refer that to our team at Fulton for our field service officers to deal with. If you have specifics of people within the community who felt that they did not receive assistance, you can forward that information. My email address is rguinn@lifelineanimal.org, and I can have our team look into it.
All right, thank you. I will send you that information over.
Thank you. And anyone else? I think, yep. That is, those are the
Does that
statistics.
conclude the?
Those are the statistics. And if there's other information or that you'd like us to see, that you'd like to see from us, other information you'd like tracked or presented, you can speak up now, or also if you have questions about it, or you can email myself or Audrey about other statistics you might want to see. We do keep track of just about everything. We do also report, all of these are reported to Fulton County. They're reported quarterly, but they're reported in a monthly format.
This is Calissa Wade. I was actually just going to ask for the TNR, the College Park, that's Lifeline. That's not part of Fulton County Animal Services, right?
Correct. For those of you who may not be that familiar with Lifeline, we're a fairly large organization. So we have a contract to manage Fulton County Animal Services, including field services. And then we also manage our college, we also manage the DeKalb County Animal Shelter under a contract with DeKalb County. We have our low-cost spay neuter clinic in College Park. We also have our community animal center, which houses an adoption center and full service veterinary care clinic it's in Atlanta, but it's right at Spaghetti Junction. We also provide high volume, low cost spay neuter at our community animal center location as well. So the College Park Clinic is it's part of Lifeline's network, for lack of a better expression, but it is not. All the other activities of Lifeline, including Pets for Life, are funded through donations. Our clinics do charge, but they're low cost, and approximately 20% of our services through our clinics are actually free. And they're all open to the public.
Thank you. It's Calissa again. I also was just going to ask, for animal control, are they back to responding? Because for a long while, they were saying due to COVID, they weren't responding.
So we are, yes, we're doing a full response now. We, the only time, well, when everything shut down in March of 2020, everything shut down. And all services, county services, went to an emergency response only. I think in Fulton County that lasted for about 6 weeks. At the end of December of 2021, our team was, for lack of a better expression, stricken with the Omicron spread. And we were down, we were down 5 officers at one time. So we did have to shift to emergency priority calls only. And that is dog attack, police and fire department assist, or public safety assist, sick or injured animals. And then we add to that animal cruelty reports. And so I believe we were had to go to emergency for approximately 4 to 5 weeks because our team was sick. But our community support team was still active, and so we were still very active trying to assist people, but our officers could only respond. We only had enough officers at that time to respond to emergency calls.
How many officers do we have right now? Sorry, it's Calissa.
Sure. We have 13 officers. We have funding for 15, and Lifeline has funded an additional officer. So we have 3 openings right now, but currently we have 13 officers, field service officers. And if you want more details about that, I think Audrey and Trey probably have that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to ask a couple more questions if you guys.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah. Do they run 24/7 or they're off hours?
Yeah, I want to take that. You want me to take that? So we have full service. I believe it is. I want to say it's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And is that 7 days a week, Trey? Or is that's Monday through Friday? Right,
yeah,
7 days a week, it's full service. And then we have officers on call. After that, we tend to be still following up on the full service calls into the evening beyond 7. But at 7, there are officers on call are for emergency only. And that is 24/7. The calls themselves are handled by the county's 911 system, and the 911 system dispatches our officers. So if you call and ask for an officer, you're actually talking to a 911 operator.
Okay. My only other question is how many field officers are usually on at a time?
Depends on the time, but Audrey or Trey?
So typically, this is Trey, by the way. So typically Friday through Saturday, currently right now with our staffing, we have 3 officers that are on a day. We have a morning officer, a midday officer, and an evening officer. That's not including myself that work weekends as well to help with coverage. Through the week, we have 3 officers that are on during the morning shift, and then we have 3 officers that are on doing what we call our swing shift, which is typically the 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. schedule. And those are the officers that respond to majority of the calls due to that's when majority of the call volume comes in. And then we do have 1 officer that is overnight as well, that we have 2 officers that do cover overnight that flip-flop and switch every few days.
So the highest call volume times we have, I think if I'm doing the math right, we have 5 to 6 officers
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
This is Jessica Hamby.
Any additional questions?
This is
Hey,
Jessica
Jessica,
Hamby.
this is Marissa Miller. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just have a couple of questions around training for the humans. I heard you mention earlier, Rebecca, that a lot of the data or some of the data that you were reporting had to do with the relationship that Lifeline supports the humans and making sure that the humans can care for their pets and they have what they need from medical as well as nutrition and stuff like that. But some of the cases that our board has been called to hear have revolved around some behavioral or handling issues. That's what they sound like I'm a pet owner, multiple pet owner. So when I hear these things, I'm automatically thinking, is this a training issue? Is this a temperament? Like, this is just the pet mommy brain that kicks in, right? So I'm wondering, my question to you is, does Lifeline support any kind of formalized training for either adopting parents or for parents that may feel like, I know I went to this place and I got, the puppy care training, but I feel like I need something else. Where do you guys kind of fall in for supporting the humans who have to provide this kind of care around behavioral things and training?
I was going to let Audrey answer, but I can't stand silent. So, whenever anyone adopts from us, we have a list of resources that we give people. We have access to a service that's actually a really good service called Good Pup that we will help provide to people. If someone is calling in and they have behavioral issues with an animal that they already own, we do try to utilize, we have an animal behavioral specialist on staff and behavior caseworkers. So we do try to utilize those to help people with problems that they bring to us and to provide whatever resources we can. So the Good Pup thing, we can provide that briefly at no charge, but then there's a fee for it. For our adoption and foster programs, we have follow-up behavior classes. We don't do those typically. There's not enough space at the Fulton shelter to do some of those, but we do offer them at our community animal center, and those are open to anyone who's adopted or anyone who's fostering for us. And then we have a lot more structured programs for our foster teams because there are a few dogs that come into our programs that don't have any manners. And so that's part of our foster program is to work with the dogs and work with the people who are in those programs. So we have some resources. That's something with the new shelter we'd like to be able to really expand on when we have the space. And Audrey, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
to follow up quickly, because you covered a lot of it. We also this is a Lifeline funded position and it's one that's worldwide. But we do quite a bit of follow up with our adopters. There's a lot of opportunity with us reaching out and following up to make sure things are going well. So there's a pretty easily accessible point of entry to get assistance if you need that. And that's how a lot of, at least for adoptions, obviously our foster program is structured with a lot of follow-up. So they're receiving that if they're part of our programming, but we do reach out to all of our adopters. And there's actually a position that Lifeline has taken on through our community animal center that reaches out and will be a point of contact and help give the adopter access to any of those different resources that we have.
Hey, folks, I just want to make sure we're staying on time, be respectful for everybody's time tonight, because there's a whole session of Q&A at the end, but we need to jump into our we're right into it past our 6:15. So Alton, if you want to do the shelter update, that would be great. You're muted.
Okay, great. Happy to. I assume we covered what we finished the previous conversation. So, and I will say, Marissa, to Ms. Miller, to your question about behavioral training, I as an animal lover, I believe that 99% of the issues that we have with animals are caused by the people who own them. So I really do. I mean, I really do, right? There's no bad animals, there's bad owners. So thing is a big thing. I think I just got muted by the host. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
You
we can
can.
still hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. So in terms of where we are with the new shelter, well, first of all, let me start by thanking everybody, right? We don't do that enough. I want to thank Lifeline for what they do. And it's been a couple of really tough years from a staffing standpoint, and then you had adoptions that were up, and now you got returns, and you know we're not back to anything called normal yet, right? We're not sure what that'll be, but really do appreciate Lifeline and the volunteers that help us through this stuff. We couldn't do it without you. And then obviously I want to acknowledge David for his day-to-day work, and obviously the board for us being able to get together. There's been a lot of progress on the shelter. Actually, I think I saw most of you at the groundbreaking in December, which was actually kind of cool. As they say, you can't finish the building unless you break ground on it, right? So we got started, we shoveled some dirt, but I will also tell you, as many of you know, building a shelter is an amazingly complex process. I didn't realize, you don't realize until you sit on some of these weekly meetings that they have and understand all of the idiosyncrasies associated with, and you know, Lifeline knows this, having built one, but everything from HVAC systems to the kinds of pallets to, you know, getting the city of Atlanta to agree on putting a stoplight in at that intersection, and then we've got the FAA to work with because we're near the airport, and so it is really complex. And we've got a lot of people involved. I think the team has done a good job. And by the way, they're trying to do this as we recover from COVID and all the supply chain issues that were associated with that. So two big things, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. One was that when we started redoing, when we kind of started again with the shelter, the team looked at the cost, and because it had taken us kind of 2 years to get started from the original time frame, and supply chain had driven up the cost of things like steel and all the other things you read about, the cost actually went to $38 million. It had been budgeted at 34. And so after a lot of work by our CFO and her team and others, we were able to shift some money from one of the previous bonds that had been approved and some other things, and allow us to basically fund it at the 38 million, even though there was some discussion about whether we'd have to reduce the footprint or do some other things. And after I yelled a bit, they decided that it would be easier to find the money than listen to me complain for the next 2 years. So the good news is we're able to get that additional funding and keep on track. Now, look, I will also say we're still in the early days of this, right? And there are going to continue to be supply chain issues and disruptions. There's no guarantee that we won't have to do some things to value engineer, but the good news is that based on the current estimate, we have all the funding that we need. The second thing is in terms of timing, and here again, Joe and others who have been involved in it can weigh in more detail, but the target date is, and I say the target because things will vary, but as I understand it, it's mid-2023, i.e., you know, June of 2023. And a little longer than we anticipated, but for all the reasons, as I just mentioned, it's going to take us a bit to get it done. But and David, you may know more details. I know you and Joe sit in on some of these meetings, but a lot of good work going on in getting all the approvals and getting the site work done and ordering the materials. We picked out the pallets, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on here. Again, I don't sit on the weekly meetings, but a lot of progress being made, and really very much in line with our initial vision of the scale and the scope of the shelter. So happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of the update since I saw you last in December. No questions? No questions, Ms. Wade? I'm surprised.
No questions. I just appreciate all your hard work on it. I figured You might have told them we would all email again and have a server problem, and they decided to find the funding.
That probably was what it is. Actually, we didn't have to go to the board for that. We actually were able to do it within within funding that had been approved. We had some previous bonds that allowed us to, that we didn't spend the money. So, but it was, the bond itself was broad enough for us to be able to use it for other projects that fit within a certain footprint. And so, so that was part of it. And there were some other things that were done as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And all the dogs appreciate it too.
I know they do. Any other questions? Madam Chairwoman, did you have a question?
Yeah. No, I was going to recommend we move on to the general questions and comments if there are no more questions about the new shelter. So I know that there had been a series of emails between some of the board members that had some questions for the Fulton County officials. And so if one of you would like to introduce yourself and go ahead with your questions.
This is Jessica Hamby. I had a question about residents who were complaining of lack of services in the field and relating to answering service calls. Just a simple thing like when you go to the pharmacy or a doctor's appointment, they'll give you a follow-up text, you know, how was your visit? Was it in a timely manner? Have they ever thought about maybe implementing something like that? Like, was your call answered in a timely manner? Was your concern addressed? Does this call need to be escalated? Were you satisfied? Basically, any additional input? I think that might help our field services.
I think that's a great idea. We have revamped that system. It wasn't, we didn't have a system that functioned well. And so we've revamped it. There's a brand new website, FultonAnimalServices.com, and I'd encourage all of you to check it out. And there is a survey there, but I like that idea of you know, getting a text with a link or that kind of thing. So I will look into what I'm gonna make a note and look into the technology for that because I think it's valuable information, and I get it. I get one every time I do anything. Like if you talk to Comcast or something like that, you instantly get something. I don't know that they respond to those things, but that's the other thing is I want to make sure that we're able to respond as well when and have a good system in place. I wouldn't want someone to be trying to contact animal services through a survey response, for example, especially in case of an emergency. So there's some details to work out for our service because it's a little bit different, but I think that's a great idea.
This is Calissa Wade. I actually just wanted to make a suggestion to Stephen, because I know the DeKalb Animal Welfare Board does meet on Zoom every month, regardless of it being a state of emergency. And I'm sure Rebecca can connect you with the people on that board as well. But if they're able to do it, I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to do it via Zoom.
Well, they're still doing it under the state of emergency as well. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Is it going to be lifted like tomorrow?
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe somebody on the phone may know better than I do about Joe. I don't know, Joe, if you know that if it's going away or not. I assume you're talking about the state emergency.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will be lifted at some point. I mean, it's just a matter of time when the governor will do it.
The current one expires April 15th, right? Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not renewed, I think the cab will be in the same situation.
This is Anna. Stephen's going to.
Yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to suggest it's something we could look at, but I think the point being that the cab's probably operating under the same rule, and based on I don't have any inside information, but I'd be surprised if it was extended given the current environment we're in.
Any other questions?
This is Jessica Hamby. I just had over social media and different things, platforms like that, a lot of concerned residents saying that they had dropped off blankets and noise canceling machines and stuff like that. Are you guys taking any kind of inventory at the kennel? Because every time I've been in there, I haven't really seen them in use.
The small electronics don't do well in a shelter environment. So, you know, we're always open to donations, and our staff does have, they're empowered to use what is appropriate. Sometimes we get things donated that we really can't use. We sometimes get, you know, open bags of food, medications, things like that that have to be discarded. If anything that's kind of like I said, small electronic thing is going to have a pretty short shelf life in a shelter. I think I know what you're talking about, and that was something that they tried to utilize, and I believe it was discarded.
But it does raise the question, not question, but if you go to our new website, does it tell people what they can and cannot donate to the shelter, or should we maybe use that as an opportunity?
We have a wish list of things that we are asking for. I don't think we have anything on there that we would prohibit people from donating, but I think that's a pretty good idea. So I think you're right. That could be a really good opportunity for us to just let people know that, because I know, you know, sometimes people would donate like really oversized comforters and things like that, and that's just not something we're going to be able to utilize. So, and sometimes we'll try to utilize things throughout the organization if we can, but yeah, that's a really good idea.
This is Kathy Crawford. In one discussion the board was having, we talked about guidelines, standard operating procedures, things like that for your organization. Do you have that? And if you do, could we have copies of it, please?
So we do have it. This has been a work in progress for quite some time for us. We've been hampered by, well, now we've had some leadership changes, but we've been hampered by staffing shortages and so on. So our supervisory personnel and management personnel are often stretched really thin. So we've been working on organization-wide on additional new SOPs. The old ones that are still in existence, the county probably has a copy of. But we do actually hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We actually want to have those completed. The SOPs are actually completed, but they have a lot of appendices and specific manuals, like for animal care or our foster program, or we utilize something called Adopters Welcome, which is a adoption format that was really put out there by HSUS probably about a decade ago now. So there are a bunch of accompanying manuals, and I have high hopes that all of that will be completed within a month. We would then in turn turn that over to Fulton County, and then it would be up to the county to give it to you. But we do hope to have something concrete and complete to the county within the next 30 to 60 days.
Hey, Rebecca, it's Calissa Wade. Do you guys mind sharing what you have currently, what you've been using? And then we'll get the updated one whenever it's ready.
Yeah, I can, or we can share the draft of the newer one, as long as that's okay with the county. Again, we're a little bit of a hybrid organization where so I can't speak for the county, but I can forward the draft to Joe Barriswain, and but again, it doesn't have all of the different manuals, and those are new. We don't have those previously. If we did that, this would have been an easier process, but we're generating all that as new material. But we can get you the draft has been the main document has been complete for a while.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I would, I guess, email David or Joe Bereswain or Matt Kallmeyer about getting a copy of the draft, but we'll get that over to them pretty quickly.
Okay, and it's for the shelter as well as the animal control division?
Yes, it's primary. Yes, it has both. Mhm.
Okay.
This is Anna Ware. I have a couple of points I'd like to make. The first one is, if it is possible, I would like for us to receive an update at some point in time from either Fulton County Animal Control or the Fulton County legal arm as to where some of the very noteworthy public cases of cruelty, where they stand. Because I hear from members of the community, they'll ask me, well, what's the latest on that guy that hung the dog? What's the latest on that girl that beat the dog with a shoe? What's the latest on the dog that was shot in the head? And I don't know how to answer those questions. And as soon as they ask me, I'm then very curious myself. So at future meetings, could somebody just give us, like when there is an update to some of these cases, could someone give us an update?
Yeah, to answer that, let me just start, John. I'll turn it over to you. I actually had a conversation with the Solicitor General yesterday, Solicitor Gamage, because his organization, his team is responsible for, and there may be somebody on the call from his office, is responsible for prosecuting those cases, and most of those cases. And he was interested in kind of, you know, being part of this, and quite frankly, being able to answer those questions. So Madam Chairwoman, I'll make sure that next time we have somebody from his organization on the call, because he.
Mr. Adams, actually, we are here. My name is.
You are, okay. Sorry,
Yes,
I'm sorry. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, my name is Shelley Falk. I'm one of the Deputy Solicitor Generals. With me is Dina Gardner. She is in my screen right below. We're in the blue. And she is over Environmental Court, which handles these cases. So Mr. Gamage asked both of us to be present just to help facilitate any kind of discussion. We can definitely I'm not sure when your next meeting is. I'm assuming next month. Is that correct? So we would be more than happy to bring any kind of updates as to any cases that are on the community's radar.
I'd appreciate that, Mrs. Anna Ware, again. Yes, I'd appreciate that, because I'm a member of that Next Door Neighbor app, where they're always sending out little tidbits of news or petitions, etc. And I know that there was a tremendous amount of interest in the woman that beat the dog with the shoe. And I was very familiar and working with the reward for that case. And so people have come back to me and asked me, well, you know, what's going on with the woman? What's going on with the woman? And I have no answers. And, you know, it made all of the news. It even made some national publications because of the very dramatic and graphic video. So, yes, if you don't mind, future meetings, if you could give us some updates on some of those cases, would be very beneficial.
And let me just put on my other hat for a minute, because I want to manage expectations. As you're very aware, we're working through a backlog of 150,000 cases that were caused by COVID. So I want to manage expectations. We have had, including some of these cases that have been on the docket for a while. So I look forward to the updates, but I don't want us to feel like these cases are imminent, because they are part of a major backlog we're working through. The good news is we have ARPA funding and we're after it, but it's you know, cases are taking longer than they used to, and which you'll probably get a feel for when we do get the updates from Ms. Falk and Ms. Gardner.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have so many cases being accused now. We're really prosecuting these quite zealously. I handle pretty much all of the cases that come through magistrate court, and part of handling that is making a decision about whether these cases should be prosecuted more severely in state court, and we're moving a lot of cases that direction. That being said, just as Mr. Adams says, there is a huge backlog of cases. We're accusing cases very quickly. And so, if we could get maybe a little bit of notice on which cases you might want to hear something about, we can have that prepared for the meeting. I can actually look up the case that you're talking about now, but I don't think anything is scheduled at this time, but I can take a look at it and see if it is. And also, well, like I said, just if you could give us a heads up, we can make a list. We can at least give you the status of the case. Also, I am always on call. Fulton County Animal Services will also often shoot me an email or a text or give me a call, because of course, in a lot of these cases, they're holding the dog and they want to know, where we might be in the timeline of the case. And I look those cases up for them regularly anyway. So just let me know. I can always give an update, at least on the procedural profile of the case and where it is in the courts.
This is Anna Ware again. If you don't mind, could you just give us a really short answer as to what might be the reason you would or wouldn't pursue a case? Like let's just say a dog was shot and we don't know who shot the dog. Who makes the determination how much investigation will be put into that case? Is that APD?
Typically APD, particularly Officers Latosky, he's often involved in it, but he works hand in hand with Fulton County Animal Services. They often refer cases back and forth to each other. They participate together a lot in the investigation. There obviously are resources that APD may have that Fulton County Animal Services may not have, just because their officers are not post-certified. So they do work together in that. We typically obtain the case after it's been charged by either APD or Fulton County Animal Services.
Right.
And Officer Tedesco, that's the other officer I meant to say, sorry.
And to piggyback on what Ms. Gardner is saying, normally what our office does is we prosecute once cases have been referred to us, either by arrest or a private warrant has been taken out. There's some sort of mechanism by which the defendant is arrested and then it is referred to us for prosecution. So we normally don't do independent investigations and take out our own warrants. That's not actually really our function. We normally prosecute cases that are referred to us. So if a person has not been identified, and let's say the example that you gave, I believe, Ms. Ware, in the example that you gave where someone has shot a dog but is unidentified at that time, we wouldn't have anyone to prosecute because the person would not have been referred to us by either APD or animal control because the person hasn't been identified at that time. I know there was a question in regards to the woman who beat the dog with the shoe. I can tell you that at this point it has been accused. It is assigned to a courtroom, but looking in the system right now, there is not right now a follow-up hearing date, which again, as Mr. Adams has pointed out, is largely a function of the backlog, but we are moving through that process quickly and the case has been accused. So just to let the community and the board know as a whole, that case is on track and is currently assigned to a courtroom for prosecution.
Excellent. Thank you for that. This is Anna Ware again. This is the other I wanted to bring up, and I'm just basically making a statement because I know there's not much probably Fulton County Animal Control can do, but Rebecca, as you know, I really do not like the use of wildlife, exotic wildlife, in any entertainment form. And I'm not going to curse, but I want to curse when I keep hearing about these tigers at these restaurants in Atlanta. That is just ridiculous. We don't need wild, exotic animals in restaurants in Atlanta. So I would like for the board, I would like for the board to approach their commissioners about doing something about this, because it just sickens me. It happened last night again. I mean, how many times are we going to have a wild tiger at a steakhouse restaurant?
Hey, Anna, this is Calissa. This is actually the first time I've heard about that. Do you mind sharing documentation in our email thread, like dates and locations of when it's happened?
Yeah, I
Well,
think
I
that
mean,
would
you
be.
can just read it on You can just read it on TMZ. I mean, I love Shaquille O'Neal. I think Shaquille's great. But, last night there was a birthday party for Shaquille O'Neal, and they've got a wild tiger there. And the thing is, this is not the first time that restaurant has had tigers in the restaurant. And it's just ridiculous.
So if I can, I don't think it's a Rebecca issue. It is we can take a look at it, and I'll talk to Steve. My sense is that's a city ordinance. That there's nothing the county can do to ban that. That would have to be done by the city of Atlanta or the city of Roswell or whatever that is, because we don't arrest people, right? And we don't. So I think we're happy to look at it and see if there's something we can do from a lobbying standpoint, or talking to the appropriate person in the city of Atlanta. But I'm not sure that falls within our domain.
Okay, this is Anna again. Why would it be city? Why would it be city as opposed to county?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I see that Trey's hand is up. So we do have a little bit of involvement in those kinds of things. It kind of depends on the situation. We would definitely get the call if something went wrong. And we do partner with APD, the Department of Natural Resources, and Department of Agriculture. Some of these things fall under their purviews. There are a lot of different players. We do sometimes are the point of contact. And Trey, I'm not sure if that's why you have your hand up. I know Anna can't see it, but if you wanted to address, because I remember we had something kind of recently involving
So it wasn't
petting zoo in Buckhead or something.
Right. No, it wasn't pertaining to tigers. This is actually my first time actually hearing about this. So I appreciate you making me aware of it. But typically with a situation like this, we do work very closely with Department of Natural Resources. Department of Natural Resources is the law enforcement agency that enforces exotic animal permits. So anyone that owns, anyone that harbors an exotic animal must have a permit that's licensed through Department of Natural Resources. So anytime that there is a situation that's like this that has occurred, and we actually have evidence to say, yes, we know for a fact this is what's going on, we always partner with Department of Natural Resources to ensure.
We lost you, Trey.
Trey, you froze.
What restaurant are we talking about, since it's already in the public domain?
Steak Market.
Steak Market, okay.
Yes, and I can tell you that, yes, the man that brings the tiger to the restaurant, he is licensed and it's permitted, but I just don't understand why, and I know this is more of a Rob Pitts question, and since Rob's running for office, it's always a good time for me to ask him these questions, but it's, this just needs to be addressed, and if it can be addressed on the county level, I think that's great. I completely am sickened by the thought of these exotic wild animals being caged and brought to restaurants. So,
I understand.
where there's loud music.
No, I agree with you. I just, here again, I hate to say it, but it comes down to whether it's legal or not in the city of Atlanta. And if they say it's legal, it's a lot of things that I wish I live in Atlanta, right? But I'm not trying to diminish it. So we'll take a look at it. It just feels like that one might be a little harder for us to influence, other than, to your point, making our concern known.
And that's what I would like to do, is I would like if other board members, and maybe the other board members don't have a problem with it, but if the other board members do have a problem with it, I would love for us as a board to maybe compose a letter to send to both the mayor and to the commissioners requesting they look at legislation to change this.
This is Jessica Hamby.
Because it's all fine. I'm sorry.
This is Jessica Hamby. I just had a question. Everything from regards to the tigers in the restaurant to field services not being able to prosecute some of these cases and people not knowing really where they're standing. Has Fulton County, is it even in the budget? And have they ever considered hiring post-certified field service officers? Because I know I lateraled from the police department to animal control, and that was very helpful, especially when prosecuting cases.
Let me just address that real quick because I come from the law enforcement side. So a couple things. We have been working very closely. So we now have a very good arrangement with the Fulton County Police Department. So when Trey works up, or when Animal Control works up a case, preps the case, they basically make one phone call, and we now have a sergeant over at the police department that's going to basically go apply for the warrant, get the warrant, execute the warrant, and there's a team that's supporting them now. That's something we started probably, I want to say, in the last 5 months. We were having some issues on, is it in the north part of the county? Is it in the south part of the county? Whose jurisdiction it's in? So we've actually partnered up with Fulton County Police Department, which they have the authority to go anywhere in the county. And that's really worked well. I'll let Trey, if he wants to expand on it. Sometimes I'll tell you, a tiger in a restaurant or a lion, they go in there and there's a promoter involved with that. Unless we get a call and the initial complaint, you come from law enforcement. So the initial call doesn't come in saying, hey, there's a dangerous animal there. There's no way for us to know. There's no way for us to respond. It's a private restaurant. You can't just walk in there and do something unless you're invited in, or there's a threat to life, not just threat to property at that point. So yeah, but it's been a really good relationship in the last 5 months. We've actually executed now a couple of warrants with the county police department, and that relationship has turned out to be a very proactive relationship between the field officers and the county police department.
This is Jessica Hamby. I was just curious, do you know that sergeant's name with Fulton County?
Trey, you worked the last warrant you worked with.
It's Sergeant Well with the Criminal Investigation Division.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hey guys, this is Marissa Miller, board member. And we have a couple of questions in the chat. I guess my first point of order or question is, who or how are we facilitating community questions that are coming in the chat? So that's open to whomever is going to, I don't know, pinch hit for those, because there's quite a few in here. My personal comment was about COVID and vaccinations and physical support to the shelters. Is it currently required that you are vaccinated, boosted, and all the things in order to physically engage with animal services, whether it's ribbon cutting or the update on the build out or going to Lifeline to volunteer or registering to foster? I'm just wondering, I've had some questions. I represent the South Side District 4, 6, I don't remember. Anyway, I'm in South Fulton, East Point area. And so there are residents who want to get more involved, but their question is around what is and is not allowed in terms of personal safety standards. So I just wanted to raise that for the purpose of this discussion.
I can, again, I'll take some guidance from Stephen, but the facility is a county facility, and like most county facilities are guided by the current policy. Our current policy, actually the policy adopted, I guess, a couple meetings ago as we changed. We are not requiring individuals to wear face coverings except for in the courthouse, which is governed by a different set of factors. There is no requirement that individuals visiting the shelters are required to wear a mask or to be vaccinated. We obviously are not going to ask for vaccination if somebody wants to come in and request a dog. So that's kind of the current posture regarding all county buildings, which I think would be one of the guiding factors for for what we would be able to require.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, I personally wasn't able to attend the ribbon cutting event at the airport location because that was not the case then. And so I wasn't aware if there was any changes that were publicized so that people could know how to govern themselves. So when the question was brought to me by the citizens, I didn't know how to answer.
No, it's a good
Thank
question.
you for the update.
It's a good question. To your second question about theoretically, I guess we'd read these out. We'd have a clerk or somebody read these out, or our chairwoman would read us out and we'd go through the questions. But since we don't, I just pull them up. So I'm happy to, like all of us, right? I'm happy to go or have David or Joe take us through the questions that have come up. What the first question though that did catch my attention is whether there's a link online on either Facebook or YouTube where this is actually being live streamed. I thought it was. I thought it was part of the announcement on our website. I may be wrong, but David, I'll defer to you to maybe give us, if you don't know the information, maybe you can check while we're talking. The second question has to do with when is an audit going to occur at Fulton County Animal Services? Not sure what the genesis of that is at this point in time. We do not have an audit on our agenda or calendar. The next question is Fulton County Animal Services picking up animals now for stopping for COVID? I believe Ms. Gwen answered that question, that we are in fact back to full service, and we did talk a little bit about the hours that field service is available. So unless I'm misspeaking, Ms. Gwen, I think that's what I heard from you.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Right. And then going down again, titles. Here again, I know we covered that at the beginning, but if we didn't have a live feed, Mr. Barswain works for our FEMA, which is Atlanta, Fulton County Emergency Services, and one of his responsibilities is, among other things, is animal services, and he is the person that David reports to. So he works for the county. And then the question about Fulton County Director Laura Hudson. Here again, at the beginning of the meeting, I think Ms. Gwynn had indicated that there was a change in her leadership team, and that role is in fact being filled by Ms. Shoemaker. If I said it right, Audrey.
You did, thank you.
David, I don't know if do you have an answer to the live stream thing? I actually thought this was being live streamed or
yeah,
broadcasted
it should
somewhere.
be. Rico's on here, Rico and Donald. Is this being, I'll let them answer that.
It's not exactly being live streamed, but what we can do is that we can take this meeting, because it's being recorded, and we can put it on YouTube for viewers to see.
Okay.
But going forward, if you want it to be live streamed, just let us know and then we can accommodate you.
Okay, yeah, I guess I had to, here again, we can figure out the logistics and figure out what the bylaws say. I think we had assumed it was, but okay, yeah.
Alton, sorry to jump in. There is a way for the public to have access, right? Regardless of whether it's live streamed. Or is that what that means?
This is Calissa Wade. There is a Zoom link published that the county published that's available for the public.
Thank you for that.
Yes, that's true. And then also as well, if the public also wants to view this meeting, well, although it's not being recorded on YouTube now as we speak, we can then take the recording and place it on Fulton County government's YouTube channel, so that then now the meeting will be live. Well, it will be public domain.
This is Jessica Hamby. I think a lot of the residents in Fulton County would actually appreciate that.
Okay. I'm going to continue going down the list. Donations being inventoried, here again, I'll just go quickly because I know everybody's, we're running out of time. The answer is yes. Is there a published list of donations? There's a list of what we would like to have, and I think we're going to update it with the things that we can't take on the site. Rescue information that get published at facility or to the public. Here again, there's a little bit of confusion because theoretically, if the public can access this meeting, they would see all of this information. So we need to just kind of get that sorted out, I think. But I did see this. I did see the Zoom link invite on the Fulton County site. So I don't know if there was a disconnect there. Has the AC meeting been publicized on FCF Fulton County platforms? It certainly is on our website. I don't know what other platforms it may be on. It typically is on Facebook as well. And donations, I donated and the donations disappeared. Where's the list of inventory? There was no explanation. Not quite sure how to address that. I think it gets back to if it was a blanket or something like that, I'm sure it's being used. If it was a comforter, it probably couldn't be used. If it was an electronic device that doesn't work, then it was probably a challenge.
And just in the full transparency, I do not believe that we inventory all in-kind donations, which is all monetary donations, obviously, are tracked and inventoried or reported to the county as well. We generally don't track a lot of in-kind donations. We get a lot of things like dog collars, leashes, things like that are, and storage is also an issue at the shelter. So, if there's something in particular that the donor has expressed an interest in that it be used a certain way, we will do the best we can. But again, the staff has the authority to decide whether or not something is suitable to be used in operations. If not, we'll donate it to another source or it will be discarded. And there's Ms. Caban is asking about radios, CDs, and so on that she donated. I believe what happened is that they weren't suitable. They were tried out in the shelter and then they were discarded. So if there is an issue with that with you, if you want to send me a receipt for that or make some sort of a claim to the value, we can reimburse that, but we discarded their donation. There is also something in here that I thought was very serious that needed to be addressed, something about controlled substances. So our veterinarian is licensed by the DEA. Every controlled substance is cataloged and inventoried, and as it's used, it's a daily log. And it's very controlled in those records. Belinda, I don't know if you're still on the call, you can explain that DEA process, but it's controlled by the federal government. So, and we're in complete compliance with all of that.
And back to the music thing, because I think that's and I've read a fair amount about this. The use of music to calm animals is actually something that I believe, and I'll double check, has been spec'd into the new shelter. But it's not as if it's not just turning on a radio and leaving it. What they say is you do it at certain times, because if you don't, then it becomes background music and it loses its effect. So it's not only having the right technology and the right levels and the right music, but there's also a certain protocol in terms of turning it off and turning it on. So yes, it's definitely, we agree that music is really important, but it's also, but the box itself has to be the right thing and has the right frequencies and all that kind of stuff that's associated with it.
And there's also something about live streaming security, that there are excellent cameras at Fulton County Animal Services that were installed by the county. And I don't believe it's live stream, but the county has full access to all the video, as do we.
So I'm not sure. Okay. So I think we are at the point of moving to the next agenda item. David, do you know what's next, or Joe?
I do. This is Anna, and it is for the meeting to be adjourned. And I think we need to work towards that as soon as we can, because it is now past 7 p.m. And I know one of the board members told me they had an event, so we need to see if there's anything else of importance that we need to discuss quickly and briefly.
Hey, this is Calissa Wade. Can I just chime in with one more thing? I know that the DCAB board was looking at the last few years of abuse calls and trying to see results and trends as far as like some locations had multiple calls to the same location, which I thought was interesting, just trying to help animal control see some trends and maybe see how the board can be involved. And I know that's a big undertaking, but that is something that I think would be interesting for us to be able to help and see where we could get involved with the community as well, to either, you know, resolve some of those, or if there's multiple calls to the same address, you know, recognizing that maybe that's a repeated issue that needs to be addressed. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened in Fulton County, because we just haven't seen any reports that go back to trend things, but I would be interested in being able to see that. And I haven't really put a lot of thought into it to come up with a plan, but wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Madam Chairwoman, there are some additional questions from Ms. Caban, but I think that at this point, to your point, we can address them either by sending a note back to her or in the next meeting. I know you can't see him because you're driving, but I just wanted to let you know that.
If there's one that you feel is urgent that needs to be asked and answered immediately, please let us know. Otherwise, I would go with your suggestion of having someone maybe email her a response.
Yeah, I think some of these probably merit a conversation because I think that we answered a number of them when we started. And so I don't want to hold everybody up to go over old ground. I do think that I think we can respond to Miss Caban. We know who she is. I think Calissa does as well. So we can get back to her and answer some of these questions that either have been covered or may be specific to some things she's interested in.
Okay, then I'd like to see if there is a board member that would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Before you do that, Anna, can I just jump in? Sorry, this is Steve from the County Attorney's Office. And I don't want to throw, I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in everything, but if this is the first board meeting of the year, and I think it is, since I haven't been to another one, there is a provision in y'all's bylaws which calls for a vote on electing a chairperson for the year. I don't know if y'all have done away with that in the past. I didn't see anything amending it, but it is in there.
This is only our second year, so.
If someone would like to nominate, if a board member would like to nominate a board member, please do so.
Stephen, I think Ms. Ware just became our chairperson 2 meetings ago.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, so it hasn't been, she hasn't had a full term, if it's measured by calendar. But to your point though, because we want to stay, if the board needs to nominate someone and we need to confirm it, then I think we should do that.
I mean, it says, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is Calissa. Can I actually just make a motion to recognize it as a full term year instead of calendar year, to give Anna a full year?
It might be easier to just renominate her, and I'm just speaking just because I understand. Then you start talking about changing. It might be easier, Ms. Wade, for you to make a motion to if we're going to do it one motion, it might be easier to just have a motion to have her nominated as the chair and have you vote on it.
Yeah, I agree with that, because to do what you wanted, Ms. Wade, you'd have to amend your bylaws. But, you know, that could be done, but it'd probably be, as Alton said, simpler just to nominate her and then vote.
Okay, well, if that's the case, for the good of the group and conscious of time, this is Marissa Miller, current board member, and I am renominating Anna Ware for a consecutive term as our board chair for the 2022 calendar year, as per our bylaws require.
I believe it requires a second. From the board.
It's Calissa Wade. I'll second that motion.
This is Anna. Thank you. I know we need to vote on it. So if we can vote by name.
Do we still have a quorum?
I believe who
Yes, we do.
still here. Great.
Oh, wait.
Thanks.
So I will play the role of clerk since we don't have one for this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Marissa.
Aye, Calissa.
And then Jessica's here.
Ms. Hamby?
I would actually like to see Calissa Wade as our board director. I think she has a lot of really insightful information and is very transparent in the community. So if anyone would like to nominate Calissa Wade.
Well, Stephen, we have looks like 2 yays and 1 nay. So is that good?
Yeah, there's the motion on the floor. I don't know all of the board members yet. It's going to be a majority of whoever of whatever is left of the board members, right? So
we have an approval then.
So if I can, and here, I'm not a parliamentarian, but we have a motion we need to make a decision on before we introduce another motion, right? So
right. I agree with that too.
Ms. Ware has been nominated as the chairperson. We have a motion. I don't know if we get a second. I don't think we got a second. So the question we're trying to vote on that, and then we can. So I guess that's the one that's up for a vote, right? Yay or nay?
Correct.
Right.
So we have 4 members. Ms. Ware is one of them, and we had 2 yays and 1 nay. Can she vote for herself?
Yeah, I'm looking at the conflicts of interest right now. I think she can.
I would vote for myself if I'm allowed.
I don't see why you cannot. And looking at your bylaws, I don't see a problem with that.
So it seems we have a majority vote approving Anna Ware for a subsequent term. Yay, we did it.
Sorry about that, y'all. Just trying to make sure everybody's always legal.
We need that, Stephen. Thank you.
Okay, so having anything else, Stephen, that you think from a procedural standpoint we need to do at this point before the chairwoman calls the meeting concluded?
No, nothing else. We're good.
Then I would like to see if we can have a motion to adjourn.
Calissa Wade, I'll motion to adjourn.
Marissa Miller.
And we have a
Motion to adjourn.
and a second. And
Yes,
all in
Jessica
favor
Hamby.
say aye.
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 And everybody, aye.
Aye.
Excellent. I believe we're adjourned and want to say thank you for all the participation this evening.
Great, thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Take care, y'all.